name is Joan Martin Fee, and I'd like to welcome you to the fun world of shrink plastic. The shrink plastic is how I got my career started in the craft industry when I used the Aleene's Shrink It plastic to make what I called a paper doll. Her name was Dress Up Dolly. And she came about when a friend and his young daughter came for a weekend visit, and we played paper dolls for hours and hours, but the clothes and accessories kept on falling off. So I made all of her clothes and accessories out of the Aleene's Shrink It plastic, and then I used the Aleene's Tack It over and over on it, and then that way you could put the clothes on and off and play with it for hours, and the clothes and accessories would stay on. So shrink plastic is near and dear to my heart, so I want to show you just how much fun it is, what we can create with it, and how super simple it is. Basic supplies are you'll need your shrink plastic and scissors, and if you're going to be making charms or something, you'll want to include to use a paper punch. And you can color your shrink plastic with colored pencils, with permanent markers, with acrylic paint, and acrylic paint is fun to work with. You can water it down and you can make a nice wash out of that for kind of a stained glass thin colored look, or you can actually kind of glob on the paint and you can get great texture on Santa's beards, and if you want to make a sheep, it gets great texture to that. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do if you're using the original Aleene's Shrink It plastic is to sand the plastic, and that's going to give your, if you're using acrylic paint or the markers or colored pencils, it's going to give it something to adhere to. You're going to use 280 to 320 grit sandpaper, and you're going to sand in a couple of different directions. And this is really important because you want to roughen that up. You can go around in circles, and you can hold it up to the light, and you can make sure that you've sanded in the area that you need. So then you bring in your pattern, and you can see this is great because you can see right through the Shrink It. And then I'm going to trace it with a permanent marker. And now I'm going to come in and color it with my colored pencils. Something to remember too when you're coloring in your shrink plastic is that it will shrink up that 60%, so your colors are really going to intensify. So go a little bit lighter coloring. Okay, so now that I have all of that colored in, you come in with regular household scissors, and you're just going to cut it out. And you can cut it on the inside or the outside of the line, whichever you'd like. Okay, so now we have it cut out. And our next step, and here's a fun trick, you are going to take a baking sheet, and we need a little bit of baby powder, just a little bit, and that is going to give our shrink plastic a little bit of a cushion so that it'll shrink nice and consistently. One last thing before we put this in the oven. If you want to make charms out of your shrink it plastic, then you want to be sure and punch your holes. Remember that the holes are going to shrink again about 50 to 60%. So if you want a pretty big hole, then use the regular hole punch. But if you want a teeny itty bitty hole, then use a little punch. It's very easy to do. Just punch it like that, and then it's time to go in the oven. Okay, so now here comes the fun part. We put the shrink it on the baking sheet, and now we're going to put it in the oven. So gather around the kids, gather around the family. Everybody's going to want to see this because it just starts to shrink in a couple of minutes, and it's just amazing. Okay, so I think it's ready. Let's check it out. Using my pot holder, I'm going to take it out of the oven. Oh, and that looks great. Here we have our heart. And if it doesn't quite lay flat when you pull it out of the oven, just come in with a spatula and hold it there for a couple of seconds while it hardens. Meanwhile, let's check this out. Okay, it has now become the thickness of a nickel, and it's very sturdy. So you'll notice that the color has intensified, and also the little hole is real itty bitty there. Thanks for joining me in the fun world of shrink plastic. If you want more ideas, be sure and go to lulu.com and type in Guide to Shrink Plastic, and there'll be some fantastic ideas for group projects, for cake decorations, for home decor, for jewelry, all kinds of fun projects. Thanks.